So happy Father's Day. I want to share a quick story. I was reading this. You've probably seen it. I think there's even a documentary or show on TV about it. It's called Super Size Me. Anybody seen this before? So what it is, this man, Morgan Spurlock is his name. Morgan, what a name, right? Morgan, he sounds like a guy who would do something like this. But he decided that he was going to eat McDonald's every day for 30 days. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, for some of you, that sounds really exciting. For others of us in the room, we're like, maybe once a week. Maybe when I'm needing a bad stomach ache, no, I'm joking. But it's reminiscent of youth trips for me, because this is always the stop, because it's the cheapest place to go is McDonald's, if you know what I'm talking about. Can you imagine? I mean, we're talking about donut shop Christianity, and we're going to get into this with fathers, but can you imagine every day for a month, not just one meal, but every meal eating donuts or eating McDonald's? I mean, we're supposed to have a healthy, balanced diet. Remember the food pyramid from back in the day? I don't know if they teach that anymore. I've heard somebody say it's not appropriate, like it's I don't know. But you're supposed to have a balanced diet, some bread, some meat, I'm a carnivore, so just give me all the meats, I'll eat it up. But McDonald's every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And he thought he would be fine. After all, it's food, right? I think the chicken's real now, isn't it? It's real. It's not coming from Mark's place, but it's real chicken. It's not the Lord's chicken, but it's chicken. But after just a few days, he was feeling sluggish, sick, emotionally unstable. That's what his family said, emotionally unstable. And then after a few weeks, his liver was starting to get inflamed, and doctors were begging him to stop. He was supposed to do it for 30 days, but they said, you don't need to do this for 30 days. He gained almost 25 pounds in just 2 weeks, eating only McDonald's. They said his liver was so fatty. I mean, it's not what we do, right? And they were actually concerned about permanent damage on this guy. If you've not seen it, I'm not saying go watch it, but I'm just saying, like, man is, the Bible says man should not live on bread alone, but I'm telling you right now, man should not live on McDonald's alone. Man should not live on donut holes like we've got. They're delicious. They're great for a Sunday morning snack when you come in with your coffee. But this should not be our regular diet, right? Anybody else with me? This shouldn't be our regular diet. Why? Because our bodies weren't meant to live on sugar and salt only. Maybe in the Garden of Eden. I don't know what that looked like. Our body processed things better and everybody was perfect. Well, the two of them were perfect for a while back then. But that's not what we're meant to do today. And can I tell you just for a moment that our soul is not meant for that either? Our soul's not, we talked last week about not being on milk anymore, but getting some solid food. The manna's gone, Jesus is gone, so the Holy Spirit could come. He could be an advocate, because we're not supposed to be followers any longer. I mean, followers of the Spirit, but now we're called to be leaders. Men, we're called to be leaders of our home. Women, we're called to be leaders in our household. Like, this is what we're supposed to do, and it's not healthy for our soul either to continue to live on sugar and salt, you might say, spiritually. It's like picking and choosing the verses out of the Bible that you like, that make you feel good, but it's not going to grow you. It's going to keep you a toddler in the faith, you might say. We do this at buffets. I'm not a big buffet person. It's kind of everybody's breathing on the food and touching everything. I'm not trying to mess up your buffet life, but just saying, but we do that at buffets, don't we? I like this. I don't like that. I like this. Can I do dessert first? Absolutely. It's a buffet. Do whatever you want, right? But this is not how we can live in our Christian life. This isn't how we treat the Bible spiritually. And so living on donuts is fun for a while. Living this way is fun for a while. We call it Sunday Fun Day at my house, right? Where there's calories don't count for it. Every now and then you just got to have a day calories don't count, right? And are you with me? But it can't be a lifestyle. And so it's fun for a while, right? All blessings, sugar, what tastes good, but eventually, listen, it leaves you spiritually bloated, emotionally unhealthy, and unfit for what God has for us. Because we're not just living a life to get to heaven. This is a spiritual battle that we're in and day out. The souls of our kids are at stake. Our neighbors are at stake. This is heaven or hell. This is real. And so we can't just live this floaty, happy-go-lucky life until we get to heaven. And that's why in the promised land, God didn't say eat donuts forever, eat the manna forever. There was a day where he said the manna has to stop, and now I want you to build something. You walked into the promised land, and as soon as you walked in, as soon as you ate the food from this land, the manna stopped. And now I want you to build something that lasts. I want you to build houses. I want you to build fences. I want you to build fields and farms. And let's start growing and producing things that are healthy. I sustained you, but now I want you to lead. I want you to build something that lasts. And so we walk all the way through this. We see that there was manna in the wilderness. There's milk and honey in the land of promise. But as we're walking through this life, we have to have more than just flavor. We have to have foundations. Right? The 3 little pigs. You can't just build your house out of sticks or straws, right? And even bricks without a good foundation, it means nothing. When the winds and waves come, right? Which house falls? The one that was built on the sand, not the one that was built on the solid rock foundation. And so now as we're jumping into the book of Joshua, we're going to walk through the book of Joshua quickly this morning. But there's 3 things that we need to learn to build a spiritual house, to be a spiritual father. But it's applicable to everybody. But we are going to do the dad thing this morning. We're walking through the book of Joshua. They first get to Jericho. They defeat Jericho. Then they get to Ai, and they get a little arrogant. And they get defeated by Ai because there was some sin in the camp that God had to deal with. And we walk all the way through to the very end of Joshua, into the book of Judges. I'm going to fast forward and then I'm going to backtrack. You guys with me? I'm going to jump into Judges chapter 2 just for 1 second. This is one of the saddest verses in the entire Bible. One of them I've shared with you before, and that's Samson, when his hair's cut and it says the Spirit left him and he didn't realize it. This is my next saddest verse in the entire Bible. It's Judges chapter 2, verse 6. Joshua died, all of the fathers, all of the mothers, all of that generation passed away. We've had that happen in America, right? We've had generations pass away. And this is so sad. It says that generation, they've been gathered to their ancestors. They passed away, and another generation grew up who neither knew the Lord or what he had done for Israel. We had a generation who left slavery out of Egypt. They had to wander for 40 years because it's easy to get yourself out of Egypt, but it's really hard to get Egypt out of you. They were still walking around with slave mentality, and there has to be a generation that says, we're not going to live like this any longer. We're not going to be followers, but now leaders. We're going to be influencers. We're going to make something of ourselves. And then we had a whole generation with Joshua and Caleb moving into the promised land, and they saw battle, they saw victory, they saw God move in certain ways. Even the Jordan River was parted. They got to experience the miracles, the hand of God. Why this is so sad for me, though, is because fathers and mothers didn't pass on what they learned. The only way a generation coming up next doesn't know God or know the things that he's done is because somebody failed to share. And as fathers, listen to me today. We have a responsibility in this room, in our homes, with our families, to share the gospel with our kids first. My priority before sharing the gospel with any of you or with any of Cleveland or with any of America is to let my 3 kids know God and know what he's done. Priority number 1. But this is so sad to me. There was a gap. Something was misplaced. Something happened. Something shifted where they said there was a generation that grew up that just didn't know. Joshua gave them the tools. He gave them words. He gave them the scroll again, you might say. He wrote down the law again for them. He gave them everything. But something broke down between what was given public and what happened in private. Because you can't force parents to, I can't force you to live this right. I wish I could. Sometimes I wish that God would just fix it all and make it all happen. Can you just come down and let the whole world know how real you really are? But there's this faith aspect, and there's got to be this faith part of us that privately that we do things. And listen, I'll tell you this. Nobody knows you better than your kids. My goal in life is that the people who know me the best respect me the most. I don't care if there's 1,000 people at my funeral and they all shout praises. I want to know what my kids thought of me. I want to know how my wife responds to me. I want to know what my grandkids one day. I don't have them yet, but one day I will, right? Hopefully. No. Sorry, awkward for him. But one day that's coming. I want them to know Grandpa or whatever name they're going to call me. I don't know there's all these names now, right? But one day I want them to say, he cares. He shared Jesus with me. He took time. He loved us. This is what I want. This is what you should desire as well. More than social media has messed up this world for us because everything's so public and we got to show this face. But what are you like behind the scenes? So Joshua gave them the tools, but listen, there's always a gap between our public life and private life. And I'll tell you right now that if you are a private failure, eventually you're going to be a public failure. These things don't stay hidden forever. The things that go on behind the scenes, they don't stay hidden. Your sin will find you out. Whether it's today, tomorrow, 10 years from now, there's coming a day of reckoning. I'm telling you right now that we got to get it together. I don't care how great you think you are or how great you look publicly. I'm concerned about your soul and your heart. And that's why David says it. I say it to you a lot, but that's why David says it. Search me, my inward being. Search what's inside of me. All the wicked things, all the evil things, we've all had them. We've all had the thoughts. We've all had those moments. We're human. We're flesh. But get rid of them. Show them to me so I can try to disperse them, so I can try to get them out of my life because I want to be something private more than I ever want to be something public. Think about this just for a moment. We're always one generation away from forgetting God. Not because he disappears, but because somebody stopped building. Because somebody stopped sharing, because somebody stopped passing the baton to the next generation. We're always one generation away. And we're seeing it in America right now that these generations, there's been a gap. Our founding fathers, different ones that have formed the nation, the Constitution that made this what it was, they said our Constitution is not fit for anybody who's not a believer. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't work unless you're a believer. And so we're seeing generational gaps here between people that are, and I love that there's a generation rising up again that maybe are first-time believers in their family line, but there has been misplaced. We think that what we've done is enough for our kids. And I'm telling you right now, I know it's summertime and we got vacation that we're looking at. I used to say this a lot even to my parents of teenagers back in Memphis when I was still a youth pastor. I would say, listen, you can handle going to the lake every weekend of the summer. Because you were drugged to church, right? You were that generation that were drugged growing up. You were drugged to church. Every time the doors open, you were drugged to church. You understand the Bible. You've got the foundation. But your kids cannot handle going to the lake home every weekend. They need to be in church. There's a difference between you having a foundation and your kids having a foundation. And what one generation does in moderation, the next generation always does in excess. It's always the case. So there's three things that we need to build, fathers. And this applies again to mothers and to students, everybody. Everybody can take application, but when I say fathers, just know that today. Doing it because it's Father's Day. So here's the first thing that we have to do that Joshua did that we have to do in our homes. And the first one is build a memorial. Build a memorial. The first couple of chapters of Joshua, they're about to enter the promised land. They're about to cross the Jordan River. And God tells them, he says, put the Ark of the Covenant in the middle. Everybody passes through. Sorry. Everybody passes through. The water stops so they can go through on dry land. And then he says, I want you to take one leader from each tribe, and each of them pick up a rock out of the riverbed and build a memorial. And it says this in Joshua chapter 4. When your children ask, what do these stones mean? In the future, your children ask, what do these stones mean? You can tell them they remind us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the Ark of the Lord's Covenant went across. And these stones will stand as a memorial among the people of Israel forever. So look at your neighbor and say, build a memorial. Come on, say it like you mean it. Say it one more time. Build a memorial. Here's the tie-in, though, in Judges chapter 2. Something happened though. The father stopped pointing to the stones. The father stopped telling the stories. The father stopped marking God's moments in their life. The father stopped building memorials. They thought the memorial at the Jordan River was enough. But that was supposed to be the example that when God did something else, when they defeated Jericho, build another one. When God provides financially for you and you don't know how He did it, build a memorial. When I was a little younger, this was about 13, 14 years ago, our youngest Charlie hadn't been born yet. We lived in a small town outside of Clarksville, Tennessee, Aaron, Tennessee. And we were visiting my parents on Easter weekend. They lived in Knoxville, and we were visiting them. And we were driving home Saturday before Easter. And this date is vivid in our memories for a couple reasons. First, my wife's grandma passed away that day. And then, as we're driving home on I-40, how many of you like I-40? I think I do prefer it to I-75 towards Chattanooga, though. I'm just saying, like, that's brutal. That I-75 is rough. But we were driving on I-40, middle of the afternoon, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. How many are afternoon sleepers? Like, you just get tired, you need a nap in the afternoon. Anybody need a nap in the afternoon? My family needed a nap. Saturday afternoon, as we're driving home on I-40, I look over and my wife's passed out in the passenger seat of the car. I look back, Israel and Camille, you guys were like 2 and 4. Passed out in their car seats. And soon enough, I was passed out in the driver's seat. 80 miles an hour on I-40. I woke up to my second set of tires on the rumble strips. You got the guardrail that's coming. I remember thinking in my mind, I mean, everything happens so fast and so slow at the same time. If you've been in a big wreck, you know what I'm talking about. It's like time stands still and doesn't. It's really weird and you feel really out of control. In my mind, though, I remember, don't yank the wheel over, because I had a friend in high school who did it when he had his permit, and he wrecked his car, and his dad was paralyzed from the neck down almost for the rest of his life because of it. So in my mind, I'm going, oh dear God, help us, because I'm off the road going really fast, and I have no control. Don't let me overcorrect and kill my family. Don't let me not overcorrect and kill me. Just help, right? I mean, it was just one of those moments where you're just like, help! So I'm trying to slow down. I mean, the car's shaking, the steering wheel's going. Thankfully, there weren't a lot of vehicles on the road, believe it or not. But I remember all in a split second, the guardrails like this. But you know, at the end of guardrails, they usually like curve in. So I'm going, and we hit the guardrail, and it turns us sideways, and we flip 2 times all the way over, flipping. And I'm like, you know how you are. And my kids are in the back, thankfully buckled in. But on the driver's side, we're flipping 2 times on I-40 that fast. Terrifying moment in my life. My wife, obviously everybody's awake now. I just really was, what I was frustrated they were all sleeping without me, so I wanted to wake them up. No, I'm joking. But we land almost turned back facing the way we were coming. Thankfully off the side of the road, not in the road. That could have been really bad too. And my wife gets out, she gets the kids out. I'm like glued to the steering wheel. But my wife's out. She's like praising God. She's speaking in tongues. She's witnessing to everybody who stopped to check on us. And I'm still like, ugh. EMT showed up. I'm still sitting there. And they're like, you good? I said, I'm good. They're like, no, you can't be good. Nobody's good after this kind of wreck. Your family's fine, but something's got to be wrong with somebody. I said, no, I'm good. They're like, then why are you still in the car? I'm like, I almost killed my family. Like, why would I not still be here? You know, she's excited, and I'm like crying in the fetal position over there in the corner because I'm like, I almost killed my family. What kind of dad am I, right? Happy Father's Day, right? We end up in the back of a squad car to get to the next exit, to get to a Burger King, to wait for my in-laws to come get us, who are like 3 hours away. And my wife, again, is witnessing to the Burger King people as we're sitting there taking orders, and I'm like crying in the corner, going, I almost killed my family. Like, I'm a wreck. But literally not a scratch on us. We didn't even have bruising. We had some glass in our hair, some shattered glass in our hair. Even this story is even cool. My wife will tell you this. This was her favorite part of this. We had just bought these little jelly shoes for Camille. And we had just bought them, and my wife loves the little jelly shoes. I don't know what it is about them. They smell good, and for a while. After a while, they don't anymore. But she just loves them, and she could only find one in the wreckage. One of them had flown off of Camille's feet, and we couldn't find them. So finally, my in-laws show up, and they wanted to go see the vehicle, so we went over to see if they were still open where they towed it, because obviously, I mean, it's done. I called the insurance. I'm on the phone crying. They could probably barely hear and understand me as I'm blubbering on the phone. But we go to see the car that had been towed, and my wife opens the door, and right there on the back seat is the other jelly, the other shoe. It was not there. I'm telling you right now, like, we looked everywhere for this thing, and it was just sitting right there on the seat. And she was like, again, she's like telling everybody about Jesus. Look how good my God is. And I'm back here going, oh my God. But I'll tell you this. We tell our kids, we tell people that we come across, look what my God did. Look what he did. I've still got the key to that car to this day. We keep it as a memorial to say, look what my God did. And I want my kids to remember that God did this in their life. You were 2, you were 4, but you remember. I mean, they remember. My daughter even thinks that there was like some evil spirit that he did. That was a weird morning for us. Your great-grandma passed away. He swears he saw her that morning. And anyway, there's a lot more to that story, but there was some crazy stuff happening. But God, let me tell you, God is faithful. What could have ended in tragedy, what could have ended in loss of life. My wife's grandma went to heaven that day, and we all could have went to heaven that day. I think that was the enemy's intention and plan that day, because he knew what we were going to do in the future. He saw potential. Listen, the enemy sees potential in you. He sees potential in your offspring. He sees potential in your kids, and he hates it. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and it's imperative that we build memorials, that we build moments into our life where we say, children, this is what God did. I'm not going to let you forget. I don't want you to grow up and not remember what God did. I don't want you to grow up and not know who he is or what the works that he has done. So every time we walk by these stones, I'm going to tell you, Dad, would you shut up? You just keep telling the same stories. Listen, I won't shut up. I won't be quiet. I'm going to tell my kids. And they tell me all the time, Dad, you've already told me this. Well, I'm going to tell you again. Because I need you to know that God is real, he's good, he loves you, he's faithful, he's going to take care of you. His promises are yes and amen. The Bible is worth standing on, it's worth believing in, because it's too important for your soul. Listen, it's too important for your kids' souls. This is real. And for those of you that might be on the fence about some of these things, listen, I'd rather live my whole life believing in this thing wholeheartedly and find out one day it wasn't true than to live like it wasn't true and one day find out it was. And so I will, for the rest of my life, I don't care how old you guys get, I'm still going to be your father. And I'm still going to remind you when you're my age, 39, almost 40, saying, listen, God's faithful, isn't he? God's good, isn't he? Are you teaching your kids? Are you teaching your kids these things? Are you having devotions every night like we did with your kids? I mean, this is imperative. Build a memorial. Don't assume your kids know it all. Tell them where God met you. And listen, even if you didn't have a godly legacy, you can start one. Psalm 78:4 says this, we will not hide this from their children, but tell the coming generation the glorious deeds of the Lord, so that they should set their hope in God and not forget the works of God. I mean, this is the Psalm of Asaph, and he's probably thinking back to this passage in the book of Judges saying, listen, you've got to share this so they don't forget who God is and what he's done. We've got to tell these stories so the next generation has faith, not just facts. We've got to tell this story so this next generation has faith and not just facts. Point number 2. Point number 1, build a memorial. Point number 2, build an altar. In Joshua chapter 8, so they get past the Jordan River, they put up the memorial stones, and now we're in Joshua chapter 8, and it says this, then Joshua built an altar to the Lord. They had just fought some battles, they had just won some battles, and it says this, Joshua built an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, on Mount Ebal. And as the Israelites watched, that's important, Joshua copied onto the stones of the altar the instructions, all the law that Moses had given them. As everybody, he did this publicly and he did it privately. How do I know Joshua did it privately? Because it says in the book of Deuteronomy, it says that Moses and Joshua would go into the tent of meeting to meet with the Lord. Moses would leave and Joshua would stay. He just lingered in the presence of God. This wasn't just a public spectacle, but I'm telling you right now, in your home, make it public. Build an altar. Build an altar. It's one thing to build it once. It's another to build worship into your rhythm, into your lifestyle. Like, this shouldn't just be a Sunday morning thing. This should be an everyday routine that they build in. I remember every morning waking up and watching my mom as she knelt in we had this ugly pink couch that she just loved so much. And I remember watching her as she kneeled at that couch every single morning and prayed. She didn't have to do it in front of us, but I'm glad she did. I'm glad that she did. I'm glad that she was vocal about it. It wasn't for her ego or to let her kids know that she was super spiritual. It was so that she could build an altar in her home and say, this is where the presence of God lives, right here. Judges chapter 2 again, they must have missed it somewhere. Somebody stopped building a memorial and somebody stopped building an altar. Somebody stopped. Worship can't be one moment. It's got to be a way of life. This is why I believe that God had them go back to the temple every single year on the Day of Atonement to sacrifice. This is why they had to go every time that they sinned. They had to sacrifice an animal. I know it sounds cruel and mean and gross, but he wanted to make sure that worship was ritual, it was normal for us. The altars where things go to die, it was normal to take something and say, something has to die so that you can live. Listen, I must decrease so that he can increase. This is what we have to do as fathers, and we have to examine this, and we have to represent this in our house. We have to be like John the Baptist that says, I've got to be less. I want God to be prominent in this house, so I'm going to take the second seat. I'm going to play the second fiddle. I'm going to be back here so that God can be preeminent in my life. And this wasn't just something that Joshua did. This was on and on and on. Listen, the first thing that Noah did when he got out of the ark, besides probably kiss the ground, right? I've been trying to get my daughter to drive a little bit. And she hates it. She does not want to drive. She's going to turn 16 this week. Wednesday's her birthday. We're excited. We're going to have fun. But she does not want to drive. And I don't really want her to drive either. This big rock out here, we almost hit it the other day. I'm messing. I told her I was going to bug her at some point. I've tried to keep her out of my illustrations. But I get out of that vehicle when she turns the key off, and what do? I get out and kiss the ground. That's probably what Noah did too. But this is the first thing that he did. He didn't set up camp. The very first thing he did was to build a house or start planting crops. He built an altar. Genesis 8:20, then Noah built an altar to the Lord. He said worship has to be priority. He didn't have to save me. He could have killed me with the rest of the world. But he gave me grace. He showed me favor. And I'm going to return it. Our only response, the only reasonable response we have to our Father in heaven for what he did for us on that day on the cross 2,000 years ago is to worship him. Our only reasonable response when somebody saves your life is every time you see them, think of them to say thank you. Abraham did the same thing in Genesis chapter 12 when the Lord appears to him again. It says that he called on the name of the Lord and built an altar. Listen, you can read through it in the book of Genesis, and every major stop Abraham landed at as he's going on his way to the land of promise, he built an altar. Every major stop along his journey, he built an altar. Worship wasn't occasional. And can I tell you this morning that everywhere life may take you, build an altar. Listen, you guys just moved into a new home. Build an altar. Anoint the doors like this is your house. Take ownership of it. Build an altar there. This is going to be a place that one day you're going to have kids and you're going to have grandkids, and this is going to be a place where they come in and go, there's peace in mom and dad's home. Build an altar there. Elijah, he didn't just build the altar. There was already an altar there, but it was in disrepair. It says Elijah actually rebuilt the altar. He repaired it. Maybe there's some of you that have just let things slide for a while. You've maybe even been a believer most of your life, but you just kind of let the altar go. You've let worship go. Life gets busy, doesn't it? I'll be the first to admit it, that life gets really busy. And it gets easy to just let some things slide. We'll just not do devotions one night. We'll just not do worship one time. We'll just not do this. It's just one Sunday at church that we won't go to, or it's this or that. But eventually it becomes routine and pattern. I'm telling you, eventually the altars get in disrepair. We don't just have to build a new altar. We can repair the ones that God had. 1 Kings 18, before fire falls down from heaven, Elijah repaired the altar of the Lord. And sometimes as fathers, we have to rebuild the altar in our home. Maybe you've let your wife take the spiritual lead in your house. It's time. I'm not saying that we got to be the men and we got to somehow lord this over. I'm just saying we're supposed to be the priest of our home. We're supposed to lead this thing. Quit taking a back seat. We don't just lead by going to church. We lead by living this in front of our kids, our spouse, maybe even to our parents who don't know the Lord. Build a memorial, build an altar, and the last thing that Joshua teaches us in Joshua chapter 24 is we have to build a house. We first build a memorial, then we build an altar. This is the pattern through the life of the book of Joshua. As they first built a memorial, then they built altars, but they didn't really build a home until the very end. Joshua 24, it's a famous passage. You guys know this. It says, "As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Listen, Joshua made this declaration at the end of Joshua, at the end of his book. But so many people, he made it public, he proclaimed it out loud, but many of them obviously didn't make it personal. Didn't make it personal, or we wouldn't see that passage in Judges chapter 2. Like their houses were hollow. They had no framework. It's like a house of cards. Anybody ever tried to build a house of cards before with no foundation and no structure? All it takes is one mean person to walk by and blow on it, and that whole thing, all your work, all the hours of work that you spend, or the dominoes, right? Where you start stacking the dominoes. My youngest likes to do that. But all it takes is one person or one dog who doesn't know any better to walk by, and all your hours of work. This is what happens to our life, though, is you can spend hours, you can spend years trying to build something, build a legacy for yourself. But listen, unless the Lord builds the house in Psalm 127, the laborers labor in vain. Unless He's a part of it, it's just dominoes, and all it's going to take is one storm in life, and all of it comes. You can try to build a legacy, you can try to build a name, but listen, names come and go. People come and go. You guys don't remember who the MVP of the World Series was from 1995? Unless you're amazing, like Gavin back there is thinking really hard, but I'm just telling you, it doesn't matter anymore. You don't know who won the swimming Olympic medal back in 1988? It was good for a moment. It made a newspaper. They got their 15 minutes of fame. But I'm telling you, if you want to build a house that will withstand for generations and generations and generations, the Lord has to be the center of it. You can strive all you want. And maybe you can make $1 million. Maybe you can become somebody. But I'm telling you right now that if your kids aren't serving the Lord, if your grandkids aren't serving the Lord, if you don't make it to heaven, if they don't make it to heaven, it doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter how much fame you have, how much popularity you have. It doesn't matter. Because eternity is a very long time. I'm telling you right now, eternity is a very long time. A house that serves the Lord is built with intentional choices. Can I tell you just for a moment, you don't drift into godliness, you actually drift away from it. Nobody drifts into doing what's right. Everybody drifts into doing what's wrong. It's easy to become complacent. It's easy to do wrong things. It's easy, even not just wrong things, but neutral things. It's easy, but it takes work and intentionality to be godly and to be disciplined, to say, I'm going to do this in my family. And this is for your family. Build a house. In Acts 16:31, it says this: believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved, you and your household. This was Philip, the prison guard. When Paul is in prison, the prison guard's standing there and he says, I'm going to kill myself because you guys all escaped and they're going to kill me anyway. And so what does Paul say? He goes, no. You can be saved. Your whole household can be saved. Just believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. Then we see another story in Acts 10 of Cornelius. It says he and all his family were devout and God-fearing, and he gave generously and prayed regularly. All of his family followed his example because of this. Your household, your whole household. There was a story I read, I'm going to close with this, There was a story I read the other day in this book by Max Lucado. It's called Outlive Your Life. Outlive Your Life. And it's about this man. They were trying to find this legend. His name was Father Benjamin. And he was this incredible man. They had heard so much about him. So they went from island to island to island in the Pacific Islands. And they were trying to find where he was from, figure out about him. And they made this island. They finally figured out where it was. So they got to this island. And they got to the islanders and they said, "Can you show me where Father Benjamin was? Where is he?" And they said, "Yeah, we can show you him." So they took him to the village and they saw the huts and they saw children learning how to read and write. And he said, "That's all great. I'm glad that you have this. I mean, all the other islands didn't, and I'm glad that you have this. You're a little more civilized. Things are going well. But I asked you to show me where Father Benjamin was." And they said, "Okay, let me take you up to the mountain." They took him up to the mountain, and there was an altar up there, and the people were worshiping God, and they were having church service. And they said, "That's great. You guys are having church service. You guys know who Jesus is. The other islands didn't know that. It's fantastic, but I asked you where Father Benjamin was." And as they're making their way down the island, down the mountain of the island, he said, the islander looked at him and said, "You asked where Father Benjamin was, and I know I showed you houses and huts and people who are learning and reading and writing and worshiping. Father Benjamin passed away many, many years ago. But he's the one who helped us make all of this. He's still living today, even though he's dead, because of all of this." And this is the way our life is and can be, that we can live way beyond our actual life because of the things that we made. There should be generations past you in your family line that are still serving the Lord because of what you did. I told you before, I'm 5th generation minister because they were faithful to pass on and to carry on the legacy. Not just that I could be a pastor. It has nothing to do with ministry. It's about serving the Lord, being disciplined. And Max Lucado wrote this at the very end of all of it. He said, "We are created by God to great works. He invites us to outlive our lives, not just in heaven, but also here on earth." It says, "So here's a salute to a long life. Goodness that outlives the grave. Love that outlasts the final breath." He says this, "May you live in such a way that your death is just the beginning of your life." Some of us didn't inherit a home like this. Some of you aren't. Some of you are first generation believers, and I applaud you for that. But I want you to look ahead 5 generations. Some of you don't have kids even in this room, but I want you to look ahead a generation. Look ahead to some of these things and say, what am I doing right now? What disciplines am I living in right now that are going to outlive me? Because my desire is that nobody knows my name but knows Jesus. But my desire is that my kids know Jesus and my kids' kids know Jesus. And that this thing gets passed on generation to generation until the Lord returns. This is the house that we're building. Fathers, this is the house that you need to build. Build a memorial, build an altar, build a home. Bow your heads with me just for a moment this morning.